The CEO mocked a single dad in front of her bodyguard, then watched him drop the guard in seconds. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, we would like to ask you for one small favor. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you will not miss any of our latest videos. It only takes a moment, costs nothing, and is one of the best ways to help us continue creating powerful, emotional, and dramatic stories like this one. Your support means more to us than you can imagine. Also, let us know where you are watching from today. Share your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. Now, let us return to our main character. Don't move, Grant, Nathan Mercer said quietly, and for the first time that morning, the laughter inside Whitmore Dynamics began to die. Victoria Whitmore stood beneath the glass ceiling of the company's main atrium, surrounded by investors, department heads, and employees holding up their phones. Her navy suit was flawless, her expression cool, and her patience thin. "You were the one questioning my security team," she said. "Now you're asking my bodyguard not to move?" Grant Callahan, 6 feet 3 inches of polished confidence, gave Nathan a faint smile. "Relax, ma'am. I'll keep it professional." Nathan looked at him, then at the training pistol secured at Grant's side. "That's exactly what worries me." A few people laughed again. Nathan wore a faded work jacket with a maintenance badge clipped near the pocket. He looked like a man who belonged beside a toolbox, not in the center of a billion-dollar company's executive demonstration. Victoria folded her arms. "You said there was a flaw in our system. My vice president says there isn't. So prove you know what you're talking about." Nathan glanced toward the digital clock above the reception desk. In 43 minutes, his daughter Sophie would walk onto a school stage and look for him in the audience. He had promised he would be there. He had also promised himself years ago that he would never again step into a room looking for a fight. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," he said. "Then this should be easy," Victoria replied. "Grant, show him." The difference between suspicion and skill. The atrium grew still. Sunlight spilled across the marble floor, catching on steel railings and expensive watches. Somewhere above them, an air vent hummed with a dull mechanical rhythm. Grant stepped forward, calm and controlled. Nathan did not raise his hands. "Last chance," he said. "For me?" Grant asked. "For whoever gave you that equipment." Grant reached toward him. Nathan shifted once, guided his balance aside, and lowered him safely to the floor before anyone understood what had happened. There was no strike, no shout, no display of anger. In less than 4 seconds, Grant was sitting upright, stunned but unhurt, while Nathan steadied him by the arm. Every phone in the atrium remained raised, but no one spoke. Victoria's expression changed from amusement to disbelief. Nathan removed the training pistol from Grant's holster, released the magazine, and tilted it over his palm. A single live round dropped onto the marble with a small metallic click. The sound carried farther than the laughter had. Nathan looked directly at Victoria. Someone didn't plan for this demonstration to end with applause. 6 hours earlier, Nathan Mercer had been standing in a kitchen barely wide enough for 2 chairs, spreading peanut butter across toast while the first gray light of morning pressed against the windows. The coffee maker clicked behind him. A school bus sighed somewhere down the block. From the hallway came the soft shuffle of small feet. "You are burning it again," Sophie said. Nathan looked at the toast, then at his 8-year-old daughter, whose pale blonde hair leaned in every direction at once. "That is not burned. That is extra toasted. That is what you said yesterday. Yesterday was more toasted." Sophie climbed onto a chair and watched him place 2 heart-shaped pills beside her orange juice. She took them without complaint. Nathan checked the small monitor clipped to her finger, waited for the numbers to settle, then nodded as if the entire world had just granted him permission to breathe. On the refrigerator, beneath a magnet shaped like a red barn, hung a bright paper ticket for the Lincoln Elementary Spring Showcase. Sophie followed his eyes. "You remember what time?" 10:30. "And where are you sitting?" "3rd row, left side, near the aisle." "And what are you not going to do?" Nathan packed her lunch into a faded blue bag. "I am not going to get distracted by broken elevators, leaking pipes, or people who think the building will collapse without me." Sophie narrowed her eyes. "Or save the whole world." Nathan smiled, but only for a second. "Especially that." She slid from the chair and walked to the small cabinet near the hallway. On the top shelf rested a wooden box Nathan never opened when she was awake. One corner of a broken military insignia showed beneath the lid. Sophie touched the box but did not lift it. Were you important before you fixed things? Nathan stopped tying her shoelace. The kitchen seemed to grow quieter around them. He looked at the box, then back at her. I was useful. That is not the same thing. No, he said softly. It is not. Outside, the March air carried the smell of wet pavement and cold grass. Nathan drove Sophie 12 miles to school in an old silver pickup with a heater that worked only when it felt respected. At the curb, she leaned across the seat and hugged him tightly. You always say a promise matters when it is hard to keep. It does. Then be there. Nathan watched her disappear through the school doors, one hand raised behind her without looking back. By 7:15, he was entering Whitmore Dynamics through the service entrance, carrying a toolbox in one hand and Sophie's showcase ticket in his shirt pocket. No one in the marble lobby noticed him. That was how Nathan preferred it. Quiet men were often mistaken for ordinary men, and he had learned long ago that being underestimated could be safer than being remembered. By 8:20, the executive floor of Whitmore Dynamics was already humming with the controlled urgency Victoria Whitmore demanded from everyone around her. Glass walls reflected pale morning light across polished steel and white oak. Assistants moved with tablets pressed to their chests. Department heads rehearsed numbers under their breath, and nobody lingered when Victoria passed. The investors arrive at 9:45. The security demonstration begins at 10. Nothing goes wrong today. Her chief of staff nodded quickly and disappeared through the conference room doors. Victoria stood alone for a moment beside the window, 32 floors above downtown Denver, watching traffic thread through the city below. She had built her life around one rule. Hesitation cost more than failure. Her father had taught her that before she was old enough to understand what kindness was. He had praised results, punished uncertainty, and treated vulnerability like a flaw that could spread through a company. Victoria had spent years proving she was sharper than every doubt attached to her name. Now the largest defense technology contract in Whitmore history was hours from approval, and she intended to leave no room for weakness. Grant is ready, Derek Sloan said as he entered without knocking. The vice president of security wore an easy smile and a charcoal suit that seemed untouched by the morning rush. The board will see exactly what they came to see. Victoria glanced at him. Then why did maintenance flag a biometric anomaly near the East Service Corridor? Derek gave a dismissive shrug. A sensor hiccup. Nathan Mercer filed it at 7:42. He has a habit of finding disasters where there are loose wires. Before Victoria could answer, Nathan appeared beyond the open doorway with a compact diagnostic unit in one hand. He did not look nervous, but he did look certain. The sensor did not fail, he said. Derek turned slowly. This is an executive briefing. Then the executives should hear it. Victoria lifted her chin. You have 30 seconds. Nathan placed the unit on the table. Someone used a retired access code at the East Corridor, then erased the secondary log. The system recorded the gap because the deletion happened 3/10 of a second too late. Derek smiled as though explaining something simple to a child. Or an old panel reset during maintenance. It did not. You repair equipment, Mr. Mercer. You do not interpret security intelligence. Nathan looked past him toward the schedule displayed on the wall. The demonstration. The investors. The sealed weapons case listed for training use. Something in his expression tightened. Victoria saw it and mistook caution for ambition. You are paid to fix what is broken, she said, not to imagine yourself as the hero. The words settled between them, colder than the air conditioning. Nathan said nothing. His eyes dropped briefly to Derek's sleeve, where the edge of an unauthorized access card vanished beneath the cuff. Then Nathan picked up his diagnostic unit and walked away, quiet enough for everyone to believe he had accepted the insult. What none of them understood was that he had already decided to stay. At 9:38, the main atrium had been transformed into a stage for confidence. Rows of white chairs faced a wide training area bordered by velvet ropes, while cameras from the company media team pointed toward the polished marble floor. Investors in dark suits spoke in low voices beneath the 30-foot glass ceiling. Employees gathered along the upper balconies, eager for a glimpse of Victoria Whitmore and the security system expected to secure the biggest contract in company history. Nathan stood near a service panel at the edge of the room, pretending to examine a faulty access reader while his attention remained fixed on the sealed equipment case beside Derek Sloan. "Everything is ready," Derek said. Grant Callahan checked the straps on his protective vest and nodded. "Training rounds confirmed? Personally inspected." Nathan heard the answer, but he also heard something else, a faint metallic weight, when Derek lifted the case. It was too heavy by a few ounces. Most people would never have noticed. Nathan had spent years learning that small differences often carried the greatest danger. Victoria stepped onto the center platform as applause rolled through the atrium. "Whitmore Dynamics does not sell fear," she told the crowd. "We build certainty." Derek smiled from the front row. Nathan looked at the digital clock above reception. 52 minutes remained before Sophie's performance. He could still leave, keep his promise, and let the people with titles handle their own mistakes. Then Derek opened the case. Grant reached inside. Nathan saw the magazine, the color strip, and the brief flash of brass where there should have been painted training markers. His pulse slowed. "Do not use that equipment," Nathan called. The applause faded. Victoria turned toward him, irritation crossing her face. Derek sighed loudly. "Not again." Grant held the training pistol safely downward. "Mr. Mercer, this area is restricted." Nathan stepped away from the service panel. "The case needs to be checked." "It was checked," Derek replied. "By me." "Then check it again." A few employees exchanged amused glances. Victoria descended from the platform. "You interrupted an executive briefing this morning, and now you are interrupting this demonstration." Nathan kept his voice calm. "Because something is wrong." "Something is always wrong when you are nearby," Derek said. Laughter moved through the crowd. Victoria studied Nathan's worn jacket, his maintenance badge, and the toolbox resting near his feet. "You question my system, my security chief, and my personal bodyguard. Perhaps you would like to show us what qualified judgment looks like." Nathan glanced toward Grant. "No, that is convenient," Victoria said. "You make accusations, then hide behind a uniform you do not even wear." The words landed harder than she knew. Nathan touched the ticket in his shirt pocket. 10:30. Third row. Left side. "I am asking you to stop this demonstration," he said. Derek leaned toward Victoria. "Let Grant test him. Then perhaps we can continue without another interruption." Phones rose around the atrium. Grant looked uncomfortable, but Victoria's pride had already made the decision. "One controlled exchange," she said. "Nothing more." Nathan looked at Grant, then at the weapon at his side. "Please do not make me do this." Grant stepped forward. "Afraid?" Nathan's eyes settled on the magazine. "No," he said quietly. "I am trying to protect you." Grant moved first, not with anger, but with the practiced certainty of a man who had spent years being the strongest presence in every room. Nathan waited until the final instant, shifted one step to the side, guided Grant's balance away, and lowered him to the marble floor with controlled precision. There was no strike, no cry, no reckless force. The movement was so brief that several people kept recording without realizing it was over. For seconds, Grant sat upright, surprised but unhurt, while Nathan kept one hand beneath his shoulder to make sure he landed safely. "Are you all right?" Nathan asked. Grant stared at him. "How did you know about my left shoulder?" "You protect it when you turn." Nathan helped him stand before anyone could mistake restraint for humiliation. That simple act changed the silence. Victoria had expected a clumsy challenge, perhaps an awkward retreat, something that would restore order and prove her judgment correct. Instead, she saw Grant steady himself beside a maintenance worker who showed no pride in winning. Nathan's attention had already moved to the holster. "Do not touch that," Derek said sharply. Nathan looked at Grant. "Permission?" Grant hesitated, then nodded. Nathan removed the training pistol carefully, kept it pointed toward the floor, and released the magazine into his palm. The atrium seemed to shrink around the quiet click of metal. He turned the magazine beneath the white overhead lights. The bright training markers were missing. "That is impossible," Victoria said. Open the chamber, Nathan replied. Derek stepped forward. He has disrupted this presentation enough. Open it, Grant said, his voice lower now. Nathan checked the chamber with deliberate care, then tilted the magazine over his other hand. One live round slipped free and struck the marble. The sound was small, almost delicate, but it traveled across 30 feet of silence like a church bell. Victoria's face lost its color. Several investors lowered their phones. Nathan placed the weapon on the nearest table and stepped back. Someone exchanged the training ammunition, he said. This was not negligence. Derek recovered first, or he placed it there himself. The accusation came quickly, too quickly. Think about it. He interrupts the briefing, predicts a problem, then creates a public miracle. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Victoria looked from the live round to Nathan's worn badge. Doubt entered her expression before gratitude had a chance. Nathan saw it happen and did not defend himself. He glanced at the clock instead. 10 minutes remained before he needed to leave for Sophie's school. Check the East Corridor logs, he said. Then check Mr. Sloane's access card. Derek's smile vanished. Security, he called. Detain him. 2 officers approached. Nathan did not resist as they took his arms. Grant stepped between them. He just protected me. Derek looked toward Victoria, and perhaps staged the reason. Every eye turned to her. The decision she made next would reveal more than any security demonstration ever could. Victoria swallowed, forced her voice steady, and said, Hold Mr. Mercer until we know the truth. The security room had no windows, only gray walls, a steel table, and the slow hum of fluorescent lights. Nathan sat with his hands secured in front of him while an officer stood near the door, avoiding eye contact. On the table rested Sophie's showcase ticket, bent at one corner where it had slipped from his pocket. Nathan watched the clock above the monitor. 10:18. 12 minutes. His phone began to ring inside a clear evidence tray. The name Sophie appeared on the screen. Let him answer, Grant said from the doorway. The officer looked uncertain. Mr. Sloane ordered no contact. I did not ask what Mr. Sloane ordered. Grant entered slowly, one hand resting near his left shoulder. The officer placed the phone on speaker. Daddy. Sophie's voice filled the small room. Nathan straightened. I am here, sweetheart. They are putting us in line. Miss Parker says we start in 10 minutes. Nathan closed his eyes for half a second. You are going to do great. Are you driving? Metal pressed cold against his wrists. The fluorescent lights buzzed above him. Nathan looked at the bent ticket and chose his words carefully. I am still at work, but I am trying. Sophie was quiet. You promised. I know. You said promises matter when they are hard. His voice softened. They matter most then. The call ended with Sophie saying she loved him, and the room felt smaller after her voice disappeared. Grant stepped closer. You protected my shoulder. Nathan looked up. You had an old injury. No one knows about it. Your body knew. I paid attention. Grant studied him for a long moment. Who trained you? Nathan gave no answer. Grant placed a tablet on the table. A military archive was open on the screen. The photograph showed a younger Nathan in uniform beside a training unit at Fort Carson. The file listed commendations, specialized instruction, and a call sign that had been sealed for nearly a decade. Ghost 6. My instructor used to talk about you, Grant said quietly. He said you taught people that control mattered more than winning. Nathan glanced toward the door. Then he remembered the lesson. Grant lowered his voice. The hallway camera confirms Derek opened the equipment case at 9:12. He also used a retired access code near the East Corridor. Nathan's expression did not change, but his attention sharpened. Where is Derek now? Grant checked the tablet. No one has seen him since the atrium. At that moment, every monitor in the room went black. The overhead lights flickered once, twice, then shifted to red emergency power. A mechanical lock engaged somewhere beyond the door. The officer reached for his radio. Static answered. Nathan stood, calm and certain. Take these off. I cannot. A distant alarm began to pulse through the building. Grant looked at the dark screens, then at Nathan. What is happening? Nathan listened to the rhythm of the alarm and the silence between each tone. The demonstration was never the target, he said. It was the distraction. Grant removed the restraints while the red emergency lights washed the security room in slow pulses. East stairwell, Nathan said. It is the only route not controlled by the central lock. The officer opened the manual release panel, and the steel door gave way with a heavy click. Beyond it, the hallway was empty. No footsteps, no voices, only the alarm repeating through the building like a measured heartbeat. Nathan picked up Sophie's bent ticket and placed it back in his shirt pocket. 10:23. 7 minutes until the showcase. You should go, Grant said. Nathan looked toward the dark corridor. There are more than 400 people in this building. And your daughter is waiting. That is why I cannot leave them. They moved toward the east stairwell, passing offices where employees stood behind locked glass doors. Grant used a mechanical key to release each section while Nathan directed everyone downward in small groups. Stay together. Do not use the elevators. Keep your phones silent. 3 quick instructions, then the quiet shuffle of shoes and frightened breathing. Nathan never raised his voice. People listened because calm, when it is real, does not need to demand respect. On the 24th floor, Victoria stood inside the executive conference room with 6 investors and 2 assistants. The doors had sealed during the blackout. Derek was gone. Her phone showed no signal, and every wall screen displayed the same message: system maintenance in progress. This is not maintenance, she said. A side door opened with an electronic tone. Derek entered, followed by 3 men in plain gray jackets carrying equipment cases. He no longer smiled like a trusted executive. The prototype access key, he said. You are going to authorize the transfer. Victoria stared at him. You changed the ammunition. I needed a disturbance. Mr. Mercer gave me a better one than I planned. One investor stepped forward, but Victoria lifted a hand, keeping him back. And after the transfer? Derek's expression remained smooth. Everyone walks away once the system confirms the files are clean. Victoria heard the lie beneath the words. For the first time that morning, her confidence did not feel like armor. It felt like a door she had locked from the inside. Then the overhead lights went dark. A second later, Nathan's voice came through the emergency speaker. Grant, take the west group to the east stairs. Keep everyone below the 20th floor. Derek looked up sharply. How did he access that channel? Somewhere beyond the conference room, a service door opened. One of Derek's men went to check it, then called back that the corridor was empty. A cart rolled slowly from the shadows, carrying a blinking maintenance beacon. Every eye followed it. The conference room locks released with a soft click. Move now, Nathan said through the speaker. Victoria guided the investors toward the opening while Grant appeared at the far end of the hall. No shouting, no chaos, just clear directions and quiet courage. As Victoria crossed the threshold, she caught a glimpse of Nathan beside the control panel, still wearing the same faded jacket she had mocked less than an hour earlier. He met her eyes only long enough to say, East stairs. Do not stop. She wanted to apologize, but dignity was not asking for words yet. It was asking whether she would finally trust the man she had refused to see. Nathan waited until Victoria and the investors reached the east stairwell before turning back toward the executive corridor. Grant met him near the service junction, breathing hard but steady. 3 floors are clear, Grant said. The police have the perimeter, but the internal locks are still under Derek's control. Nathan glanced at the building map glowing faintly on the emergency panel. Then we take away his control. How? We make him think he still has it. The 2 men moved through a maintenance passage no executive had ever noticed, narrow enough that Nathan's shoulders nearly brushed the walls. Pipes clicked overhead. Warm air carried the smell of dust and machine oil. Somewhere below, hundreds of employees descended in silence. Nathan listened to every sound, measuring distance, timing, and fear. You taught my instructor, Grant said quietly. He said Ghost 6 never entered a room without knowing how everyone could leave it. Nathan kept moving. Then let us give them a way out. They reached the central utility hub, where Nathan disconnected the executive floor from the main network and shifted the doors to local safety mode. One by one, green lights appeared across the panel. Grant gave a small breath of relief. That opens the evacuation routes. It also tells Derek where we are. A voice came through the nearby speaker. Mr. Mercer, you are making this unnecessarily difficult. Derek's tone was calm, but the confidence beneath it had begun to crack. Send Victoria back with the authorization code, and everyone goes home. Nathan looked at the clock on the panel. 10:37. Sophie's performance had already begun. He touched the ticket in his pocket, then pressed the speaker button. You do not want the code. You want someone else to carry the blame. Silence answered him. Grant watched the corridor. He is stalling, Nathan said. So are we. Victoria suddenly appeared at the far end of the passage, having slipped away from the evacuation group. The prototype will erase itself if removed without my voice confirmation, she said. Nathan's expression tightened. You should not be here. Neither should you. I work here. So do I. Before he could answer, Derek stepped from the conference room entrance and held up a portable access device. Two of his men remained several feet behind him, uncertain now that the building had begun to unlock. Enough, Derek said. Victoria, authorize the transfer. She stood beside Nathan instead. No. Derek smiled thinly. You always believed weakness was a choice. Victoria looked at Nathan's worn jacket, the bent showcase ticket visible near his pocket, and the man who had returned for people who had doubted him. I was wrong about what weakness looks like. Derek raised the device. Nathan activated the fire suppression override. White vapor poured from the ceiling vents, filling the corridor with cool mist and obscuring the access screens. Grant guided Victoria behind the utility door while Nathan disabled the transfer port from the wall panel. No shouting. No reckless display. Only timing, restraint, and control. When the vapor cleared, the device in Derek's hand showed one word. Rejected. Police entered from the stairwell moments later. Derek stared at Nathan as the officers took control of the corridor. You gave up everything for a child, he said bitterly. Nathan looked at the clock. No, he answered. She taught me what was worth coming home to. A uniformed commander stepped through the mist, saw Nathan, and stopped. His posture changed. He raised one hand in a quiet salute. Welcome back, Ghost 6. Around them, the corridor fell completely silent. Nathan did not wait for the cameras, the questions, or the praise that began gathering around him. By 10:44, he was already in his silver pickup, the bent showcase ticket on the passenger seat, and the city moving too slowly beyond the windshield. Red lights held him at every intersection. A delivery truck blocked the right lane. Rain began tapping against the glass in soft, impatient beats. He kept both hands on the wheel and listened to the voicemail Sophie had left. Daddy, I looked for you in the third row. Her voice was brave, which hurt more than if she had cried. When Nathan reached Lincoln Elementary, the parking lot was nearly empty. He ran through the front doors in his faded work jacket, one sleeve marked by dust, the faint red line from the restraints still visible around his wrists. Music drifted from the auditorium. He stopped at the entrance, just as the final group of children finished their song. Sophie stood near the end of the risers in a pale blue dress, her eyes scanning the seats one last time. Then she saw him. Her shoulders lowered. Her smile arrived slowly, not because the promise had been perfectly kept, but because he had come carrying every effort he had left. Nathan slipped into the back row and placed one hand over his heart. Sophie did the same. After the applause, she hurried down the aisle and wrapped her arms around him. You missed most of it, she whispered. I know. Did you save the world again? Nathan knelt so they were eye to eye. I helped some people find the door. Sophie studied the marks on his wrists but did not ask. Next time, find the school door first. That is fair. A quiet voice came from behind them. She is right. Victoria stood a few feet away, no assistance, no security detail, only a woman in a navy suit that no longer looked like armor. Grant waited near the auditorium entrance, his left arm resting comfortably at his side. Victoria looked at Sophie. Your father protected a great many people today. Sophie tightened her arms around Nathan. That is what he does. Victoria turned to him. I owe you more than an apology. Nathan rose. An apology is not useful unless it changes what happens next. She accepted the words without defense. Then, tomorrow, every contract employee receives the same family medical coverage as senior staff. The security division will be rebuilt under independent oversight. and no one will be dismissed for raising a concern that makes an executive uncomfortable. Nathan glanced at Grant, who gave a small nod. That is a beginning, Nathan said. Victoria offered him the position of Director of Human Safety, with authority over emergency systems, employee protection, and ethical review. Nathan looked at Sophie before answering. I leave by 4 every day, and school events are not negotiable. Victoria smiled, not as a chief executive granting permission, but as someone learning respect. Agreed. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sophie took Nathan's hand and asked, Can you really bring down anyone? He looked at Victoria, then at Grant, then down at his daughter. Strength is not putting someone down, he said. It is knowing when to help them stand again. For a moment, no one spoke. This time, the silence was not filled with fear or humiliation. It was filled with grace.